And we have sound check. Presenter's laptop, room 264, April 30th, 9:32 a.m., Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee. That is the sound check for room 264. Madam Chair, we are live.
Thank you, Lorraine. I would like to call this meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Before we start into our meeting, are there any members who would rather respond verbally to our votes and request to speak? I believe we have a couple of members on the line this morning. If I could just have you acknowledge that.
Yes, I'm here right now.
Okay.
Dave Bellin.
And Will?
Yeah, I'm here.
Fantastic, thank you. So we'll now move into our roll call. Councillor Pearson?
David sent her regrets, Madam Chair. Pardon me.
Okay, thank you. David Beeland? Janice Brown?
Here.
Karen Burke?
Present.
Graham Carroll?
Present.
Charles Dimitri?
Present.
Bill Jansen?
Here.
Lynn Lundstedt?
Present.
Robin McKee?
Here.
Timothy Ritchie?
In spirit.
And Will Rosart.
Of course. Here.
Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, and again, thank you very much, committee members, for your patience this morning. So we do have changes to the agenda, and they are as follows. Under Communications item 5.2, Correspondence from Chris Redmond, President, Duran Neighborhood Association, respecting the absence of a heritage permit for the property located at 51 Herkimer Street, Hamilton, and that recommendation is to be received. Under consent items, we have 7.2, Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee Minutes of March 16, 2021. And under 7.3, Inventory and Research Working Group Meeting Notes of March 22nd, 2021. Under staff presentations, we have the Hamilton 175 update with Cynthia and John Summers this morning. And we also have a notice of motion, which is 12.1 for the membership of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee.
Thank you, Lorraine. May I now have a mover and a seconder on the motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I see Bill Jansen and I see Graham Carroll.
Is there any opposed to the approval of the agenda as amended? Seeing none, that item is carried. Are there any declarations of interest today? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of our minutes from the previous meeting. May I have a motion to approve the March 26, 2021 minutes?
I see Janice Brown and I see Lynn Lundstedt.
Is there anyone opposed to the approved to those minutes? Seeing none, that item is carried. Moving on to our communication items, there are two pieces of correspondence before us with recommendations. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the recommendations as presented?
I see Tim Ritchie and Graham Carroll.
We will now vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. And while we're on the item, is there any action in regards to correspondence received from the Duran Neighborhood Association?
Just a question through the chair. Not sure direction because it's, I mentioned that I should. No, I won't say that. Is because this is with staff currently, is this sufficient at this point in time? Or would this be considered something that might come to inventory and research for discussion, since that's part of what we do in some capacity? Or should it go to permit review? I'm a little confused. I didn't address it to Chuck. I didn't know if that was the correct way that the Duran Neighborhood Association should go. So I'll leave that with whoever could answer that.
Alyssa Golden, would you be able to comment just where it sits with staff right now?
Sure, through the chair. There are certainly some aspects that we can look at as part of our continuing heritage process review related to not only historic or older designations, but also our permit process. So certainly we can take a look at that as a part of that ongoing process. If this committee would like to refer this document to the various working groups as well for their information, that would also be an applicable approach.
Graham? Oh, Graham, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'd like to see some kind of policy developed on how we handle permits under these older designations. Because like the Raster House where they put the sign up, but there's nothing to stop them putting the sign up in the designation. We have to, as a city, develop a policy that we treat everything the same way, not haphazardly. So if we're this open on this building and other buildings, what else can happen that can fall through the crack where we lose heritage features off buildings because they weren't stated in the designation from the 1970s? It's just wrong. We have to do something about it. So maybe we'll have to find a way to get a policy set up.
Anita, did you have a comment?
Through the chair to the member of Heritage Committee. So as part of Bill 108, there could potentially be some changes to the Act in terms of how specific designating bylaws need to be. So what staff will be doing once that comes into effect is looking at whether or not we will be going back to revisit some of those old bylaws and to do the research and to do the work to amend those bylaws and update them to include a specific list of heritage attributes. So that would be the process through which that would be completed.
But is there a way in the interim to get a policy that all of these things do need a permit? Because in the meantime, we could strip a lot of buildings of heritage features while we're waiting to get off our butts.
Through the chair, so in terms of what we're legally allowed to do under the Ontario Heritage Act, we're only allowed to require heritage permits or require approvals for alterations to identified heritage attributes. And the challenge with our older designation bylaws that were written before changes to the Ontario Heritage Act is that there wasn't a requirement to explicitly identify those attributes. So we do try to interpret those within the realm of our legal ability to do so, and that's where the challenges came with this particular older bylaw. So we would not be able to bring in a policy that blanketly requires permits for all work to a property, but certainly we can look at developing protocols for a more cautious interpretation, or to at least ensure that we're engaging with our legal staff when we're making those challenging, ambiguous interpretations for these older bylaws.
Thank you, Melissa. So I have Chuck and then Janice.
Yeah, my comments are maybe a bit moot in light of what I just heard from Alyssa, but from the perspective of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, I don't really see this in our purview right now. Quite frankly, one of the byproducts of having more and more properties designated is that we're getting more and more permits, right? And we really don't have time to address enforcement type of issues. I mean, unless things change drastically. So I would see this as not really, the Permit Review Subcommittee will act at the direction of the bylaws, obviously, but I think this is with staff or even the policy working group to develop a perspective on it. As I said, right now, in the last few meetings, we continue to get more and more permits, and including 9 at the last one. So enforcement would take it to a whole new level, right? Or considering actions around enforcement, to me, would change things drastically in the permit review subcommittee. That's it.
Thank you, Chuck. Janice?
Through the chair, a couple comments. I don't think that, this is to Chuck, I don't think it was about enforcement, but having said that, what the DNA is concerned about, and perhaps this comes down to what's on our city website with the heritage material. And one of the questions asked was, when is a heritage permit needed? If a property is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. So the decision, and I understand Alyssa and the legalities and our early designations. I did talk to Ontario Heritage Trust about this as well, but in consideration, I think the permit review people should be the ones that make that decision regardless. And we can't just disregard those old, very old. Those were early days. The Heritage Act was passed in 1975 or 74. So this designation came down, I think, in 77 or 78. Newbies. And at that time, there wasn't even a municipal heritage committee. It was LACAC. So there are huge considerations, and it's not as easy as waiting on Bill 108. It was promised to us, I don't know when. We still haven't seen it, and I have no idea whether we'll ever see it, as depending on what happens with this government. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Janice. So does the committee wish to add the discussion item forwarded on to the Policy and Design Working Group, just for some further discussion offline?
We'll need a mover and seconder for that if anyone's interested. I see Tim Ritchie.
I'll move it. Okay.
And Karen Burke. So that, Madam Chair, if I'm understanding correctly, that the correspondence will be referred to policy and design?
That's correct.
Thank you. Which one? Okay. Refer to policy and design for consideration, yes?
Just for further discussion, yeah.
Okay. Terrific. And that was Tim and Bill Jansen, I believe. Karen Burke. Sorry. Short-term memory.
With that said, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Robin, you have a question?
Just a heads up. What was the address of that problem?
51 Herkimer.
Thank you.
It's the old manse of the St. Andrew's Church, now St. Paul's.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our consent items. We have before us consent items 7.1 to 7.3. So that includes our heritage permit designations with the delegated approvals, heritage permit review subcommittee meeting minutes from the March 16th meeting, and inventory and research working group meeting notes from March 22nd. Is there any discussion or questions in regards to those items? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the items?
Bill Jansen and Janice Brown.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under staff presentations, we welcome John Summers, Manager of the Heritage Resource Management, who's here to present our next item, which is on Hamilton and 175.
Morning, Madam
Good morning,
Chair
John.
And members. I have with me today Cynthia Roberts, who has joined us also as the Hamilton 175 project lead. So I thought I would deliver a brief introduction and then turn it over to Cynthia, who has a presentation to share with you. So in terms of background, we were asked in Tourism and Culture last fall, I think, early last fall, by the mayor to think about the city's 175th birthday. Those of you who have delved into the city's history know that there's a variety of dates which could be chosen as the start of Hamilton, but the mayor has elected the one that produces this June 9th as the city's official 175th birthday, that being the anniversary of its signing of a charter and appointment of a council and other official municipal steps. So we thought about this and considered a number of options, went back and talked to the mayor about it, and they were fine. I mean, they were programming that we could do like we always do to celebrate things. But one of the things that occurred to me, which I shared with the mayor, was that, I mean, these commemorations are great. I've been through several myself. Canada's had a sesquicentennial. Toronto had a sesquicentennial. But the question that always troubles me is what is left after the confetti is swept up and the rental chairs are returned, right? What is the legacy piece? It's great to have a party, but what is the legacy piece? And as we talked about that, it occurred to myself and also to Carrie Brooks-Joyner, our director, that we could do both. We could have a party and we could also create a legacy. And the decision was taken to propose to council that the legacy would be the creation of a new website for the Heritage Resource Management section. And this website would launch this year in the anniversary year as a way to acknowledge and celebrate and commemorate the city's anniversary, but it would remain after this year as an ongoing digital platform for Heritage Resource Management to further its engagement with the city's heritage. Now, since then, circumstances have pretty much precluded any possibility of an in-person celebration. And fireworks at Duran Castle and cake and lemonade and all the fun stuff we were going to do. So we are in the fortunate position, I guess, of having already planned and committed to creating a digital commemoration. And now that has become even more urgent because COVID will prevent us from celebrating otherwise. So we are in the process of organizing this project now. Council granted us some funding late last year, and part of that funding allowed us to hire Cynthia to work with myself and my staff to coordinate the project. So I will turn it over to her from this point on, and she can tell you about what we're up to.
Thank you, John, for that introduction, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here presenting to you all about the Hamilton 175 project. I'm going to assume that everyone can hear me well, and I will be sharing my screen, so hopefully this will go smoothly. Okay, so people can see my screen now. Correct? Perfect. Okay, thank you. So, John said, I'm the project lead for the Hamilton 175 project. I'm working with HRM staff and we'll be working with community members in order to realize and deliver this project. And to build on some of the things that John already alluded to, last year in terms of project rationale, at the end of 2020, Council approved funds for the Tourism and Culture Division to develop an online commemoration of the 175 years of the city's founding. And these funds would be used in two different ways which are interconnected. So one is launching a dedicated website for this project, and two is that website to be a first step towards developing what would be a virtual museum of Hamilton. And so with these two interconnected concepts of Museum of Hamilton and 175, the Museum of Hamilton, or the website itself, is a digital storytelling platform interpreting Hamilton's histories through heritage-based digital exhibits and inclusive new content that will be co-created with external stakeholders and community groups. The website itself, launching at the end of this year in November, will launch with the Hamilton 175 project, which is that commemoration that we've been speaking about the city's founding. And more information and details about this project could be viewed in the staff report to council from last November 2020. In terms of background to the project, Hamilton 175 aligns with the city's strategic priorities and council direction as outlined in the terms of council priorities for 2018 to 2022, especially regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion is one of the focus areas. The project also uses a heritage lens to interpret the principles outlined in the City of Hamilton Equity and Inclusion Policy from 2016. And it takes the feedback provided from residents through the public engagement process conducted in 2019 that resulted in the Reimagine Our Museums report. More specifically about those two documents, and I promise not to read all of these points in the slide, that by taking this heritage lens and interpreting the City of Hamilton Equity and Inclusion Policy, we specifically are looking at involving communities into this process to ensure that diverse communities and individuals have a crucial seat at the decision-making table. In the policy, the principles, for example, defines inclusion as creating a sense of belonging, which is a crucial foundation for heritage-based content. In terms of general calls to actions from residents received through the public engagement, there were some essential points listed here. One being an overall ask for more inclusive and representative histories of Hamilton, as well as a call to expand, broaden, and deepen the stories and narratives currently told at existing Hamilton civic museums. The last two being there's a call and need to have more technology and digital engagement opportunities coming from museums, hence the alignment with having a digital storytelling platform, and as well to explore the idea of a virtual museum, of a museum of Hamilton. So the project is grounded on these principles, and as I mentioned before, it takes a heritage lens to achieve the outcomes building on these two foundational documents. And building on that, the project itself, the aim is to empower Hamilton communities to preserve and share their heritage, histories, and narratives through a digital storytelling website, which will be content managed by the Heritage Resource Management section in collaboration with the communities represented. So this website will be an enabler to for communities to self-definition and to empower Hamiltonians to tell their own stories, and in response to the call to deepen, broaden, and widen the scope of the narratives and histories told in our museums. It's also important to note that having both Hamilton 175 and the concept of a Museum of Hamilton, that there is a distinction that we're making with this project. So Hamilton 175 is launching with the website, and it's commemorating a significant historical event that marked the 175th anniversary of the city founding and is relevant through 2021. But as the website and Museum of Hamilton, and hinting at that legacy that John was speaking about, what's left after the confetti settles, is the website that's the first step to the Museum of Hamilton, and that will continue to have content and digital exhibits post 2021. And as a review, just going really far back to 1816, as John mentioned, historians will identify that there are three potential dates that are relevant to the founding of the city. And June 9, 1846 is the one we're commemorating with this event, specifically because it has a tie towards Hamilton being the second city in Upper Canada with wards, councillors, and a mayor. So it has that municipal relation in terms of historical significance. Plus, 2020 was when we received the funds and to commemorate the 175th anniversary. This year obviously marks that occasion. And so the two upcoming milestones for the project is one, the commemoration day on June 9th, 2021, where we would be posting digital, we will be posting online a message about why this date, and to have the public reveal of Hamilton 175 and continuing our online engagement that would lead us to the launch of the website in November 2021. So that is a brief summary of where we're at and what the Hamilton 175 project is all about. And thank you. If you have any questions for us, please let us know.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, for that presentation. It's really exciting to hear about that project. If I can just ask you to unshare your screen, if you don't mind, and then that way I can see all the members. And if I can get a show of hands of anyone that has questions and comments, and we'll start our speakers list. So I think Janice had her hand up first, and I see Robin. So Janice, go ahead.
Through the chair to either Cynthia or John. First of all, I am delighted to see this happening. I think I was at that very early meeting in the fall. As I recall, if that's the correct one, we were at Duran Castle in the stone building carriage house up top. So congratulations on this. And my question, how are you going to engage the community? That's a really broad question, but because there's I'm sure that there are a lot of people that would like to add their input, and we've got a wealth of knowledge in this city, and it doesn't matter where you turn, you're running into somebody that knows something about Hamilton that you perhaps did not know. And that's one of my favorite things, by the way, Lorraine, about Facebook. I'm really into those sites. So if somebody could answer that question for me, thank you.
I'm happy to do that through you, Madam Chair. That's a great question. So we have both an opportunity and in the short term some constraints on us. The opportunity, of course, is the support and the funding to do this. The constraint is November of 2021, which is fast approaching. So our immediate task is to get the platform built. And as Cynthia mentioned, this will be an enduring platform that will be ours for the foreseeable future to use to support the objectives that we all share. We also hope that the relationships that we build in doing this will be the start of a much broader engagement, because as you know, Heritage Resource Management is famous mostly for running its existing sites. And I'm always quick to say we do that well. The sites have audiences who are waiting for them to reopen so that they can go and enjoy what they have to offer. But in terms of their physical structures and their positioning, their placement in the city, and their own mandates, the sites are a small portion of the breadth of the city's history. So this will let us fill that in. We are reaching out now. I hope to come out of this year with a couple of things. One is a functioning, modern, engaging, attractive website. And the second one is more topics than we can ever hope to deal with in a lifetime, because that will help us engage with the richness of the resource. And so this is the start of this project, just the very start. We've struck this community advisory group that will be meeting in the next couple of weeks, we hope. Composed of people who are links to other areas and other communities within the city. And so they are not necessarily speaking for the communities, but we want to bring them in to help us understand who we should be talking to. And we will start that work. The crucial decision, I think, for this year will be an editorial one. And I've been comparing it to a newspaper in that you need to decide what goes on the front page and what goes on page 2 and page 3. So for this fall, for the launch, we will be working with everybody who has a stake in this to decide of the things we can do this year to launch the site with, what are the ones that will most effectively make our point about the broadening of the city's engagement with heritage. But we do envision ongoing relationships with anyone in the city really who has an interest in heritage. And so I think what this does is effectively opens the door to ways far beyond our existing sites to not only create our own content, but to offer a platform for others to to share theirs. So I'm thinking, for instance, of some of the wonderful mapping work that my colleague Alyssa Golden has done as a public platform for understanding the city's history through layers. We will now have a place to put that where we did not before, because as you know, our corner of the city's own website is a very small corner because it's a large and busy place. So this is an expansion, a tremendous expansion of our capacity. So that I'm hoping it's just a start of a whole series of discussions. I don't know, Cynthia, if you had anything to add?
I think that covers it well.
May I respond back through the chair?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned a community advisory committee. Is this open to the public to listen in? And who might your members be?
This is through you, Madam Chair, this is a group that we have struck initially just to work with us as staff, and they will help us plan the larger engagement. And yes, the larger engagements will be public. Originally, of course, we were going to be out in the city, physically sitting down and meeting. We now cannot do that. And so we'll be looking for other ways like this platform with which to do that. The composition of the committee follows pretty closely on the inclusion policies that Cynthia spoke about early on. So we have focused as the initial membership of the committee on groups that have historically not had a voice or presence in the city's history, and or that we have not had a chance to work with yet. But it is by no means the end of that. These are the first places to start with, and we'll be moving on from there. So really this year is about building infrastructure and building connections and starting some new working relationships so that we're not just running our sites as a way to engage with the city's history. And Cynthia, maybe you can review the membership. Do you have that in front of you?
I will be in just one moment. So I can read and share the names of the people that we've approached to join this advisory group. We have Cole Gately, who's a diversity and inclusion facilitator at the city of Hamilton, as well as Florencia Berenstein, who's the executive director of Workers' Arts Heritage Center. Maxine Carter, who is a director and special advisory equity and inclusion at Mohawk College. We have Muhammad Araf, he's a program officer at Hamilton Immigrant Partnership Council. We've also invited, pending confirmation, Sarah Jama, who is a co-founder of the Disability Justice Network of Ontario, as well as Shelley McKay, who's the manager of communications from the Hamilton Public Library, Shelley Hill, who's a senior project manager for urban indigenous strategies at City of Hamilton, and Shirley Collins, who is a member of the Hamilton Museum Citizens Committee.
What committee again? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
The Hamilton Museum Citizens Committee.
Thank you.
Janice, did you have any follow-up question to that?
No.
Okay. We'll move
Thank
on
you.
to
Much
Robin.
appreciated.
Robin, as our next speaker. You just need to unmute yourself, Robin. Oh, Robin, you're still muted. Robin, you're still muted. Lorraine, are you able to unmute?
No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But Robin, why don't you just pull out your headset for now?
Or is that red button halfway down the cord that may be pushed?
Mm-hmm. I can't remember what version of the headset Robin has.
Robin, do you have one of these?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think this is a good opportunity for Hamilton and the museums. And John, the other committee that I am chair of is the Hamilton Wentworth Heritage Society. And we put on Heritage Day in February this year virtually. And we give awards out to all the membership. And that is the umbrella group that have all the other historical organizations in Hamilton as members. And we've invited John to come to speak to us at our next meeting. And you may have got that email from Lee Gower.
Yes.
Yes. And so this is a great opportunity for you to come and learn of all the heritage aspects of Hamilton under that group. And I'm looking forward to telling you about what's going on there. So that is a great opportunity for you to have them reach out to all the community. And I know the inclusiveness of what your committee is on, but I didn't hear any historical groups there. And these are all the historical groups that are going to be under the umbrella group for the Heritage Day. So we invite you to do that. And that way you can have ground roots on your radar. The other one is on the June 9th day, what is actually going to happen and how and where? And the other question is, with the virtual museum, how are you going to own artifacts and get donations?
So through you, Madam Chair, I'll answer a couple of those and then turn it over to Cynthia for one of them. So yes, thank you, Robin. Your invitation, the group's invitation is in my inbox, and I hope sincerely to reply today. And what I was going to reply to say is to ask if Cynthia and I might come to do two things at once, to introduce myself and also to introduce this project for the reasons you mentioned. And I'm remiss in not replying, and I shall do so at my earliest convenience.
Thank you.
So the work that we're talking about doing virtually is in no way, shape, or form intended to supplant what we're already doing. We will continue to own and operate the sites. We will continue to build and hold our collection. And this is another platform, and it's another outlet. So all of the activities that Heritage Resource Management has traditionally done shall continue, albeit with a broader focus. And that's something we're going to be considering in light of the collection, is what really should our collecting be if our mandate is now to engage with the history of the whole city and not just to focus on our sites. I don't know if that answers your question, and I might ask Cynthia to speak to the middle question, which I did not address.
Yes. So regarding what June 9th looks like, so we're currently developing the details of what that would be. As we know, and with the limitations that we have to do any public gathering, that's completely out of the question. So our commemoration will be all digital, and we will be creating a series of posts leading up to the date through our various museum channels to communicate to the public about like the historical importance of the upcoming June 9th date. And on the day of, we will be releasing a coordinated message talking about why this date is the 175th anniversary, as well as we will be revealing or start publicly showing what is the graphic identity for Hamilton 175, which means that posts that will be done digitally through our Instagram and Facebook channels will have that brand identity, so that people identify that this is part of the Hamilton 175 commemoration and leads up to the launch of the website in November. So the June 9th, it would be an entirely digital reveal and messaging using both the City of Hamilton corporate channels as well as the Civic Museum's channels.
Robin, you're on mute again.
I took it out. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Just to follow up through you, the chair, is that on June 9th, is any event going to be a George Hamilton Day event, or is there a Bailey Award this year? I know the COVID has canceled the Heritage Day for the city, but the items that would take place would be the Bailey Award and the Students Award during Heritage Day. When are they going to be done? Is this going to be wrapped into this June 9th day? And is there an application for a Bailey Award and the students? And the second question is, I have a 1955 Studebaker. It's big. How would I give that to the city museum?
Thank you, Robin. Through you, Madam Chair. June 9th is a date itself that needs to be commemorated. It is also the start of a number of things we'll be rolling out with the graphic identity that Cynthia mentioned leading up to the launch of the website. We are just right now finalizing the recruitment of our web design team that will be working with us to begin to build the site. So I have been speaking with my colleague Christopher Redford, who has organized, as you know, those events in the past, and we're hoping to bring as many existing events as we can under the umbrella of Hamilton 175. So the June 9th will mark essentially the launch of the campaign to begin promoting this leading up to the website in the website launch in November. So we'll be looking to, yes, we'll be in touch. We're looking to bring those things back, but under this umbrella, because we'll now have a way to, and a theme to organize them underneath and a way to present them. Regarding your Studebaker, I would be happy to discuss with you at greater length. And had we had a Hamilton 175 parade, rest assured we would have put you and your automobile at the head of it. But lacking a parade, we shall have to look for other ways of doing it. But I would love to go for a ride someday, if that's not an abuse of my position as a city staff member or the acceptance of a perk that would get me in trouble.
Now we all want to see a picture of your Studebaker. So I saw Janice wanted to ask another follow-up question, but do we have any first-time speakers that would like to ask a question of John or Cynthia? If there's none, Janice? And you just need to take yourself off mute.
You are...
Sorry, I hit a button by mistake. Graham knows how awful I am with buttons. I'm sorry. I'm just following up a little bit with Robin Studebaker, and it has to do with real stuff that you can touch. Moving forward, will there be an opportunity for the city to truly think about a museum with the memorabilia, et cetera, that is being stored in who knows where sites that many of us would love to see and love to know some more of those stories. I feel this is just the start, but it certainly does not say museum to me. It says COVID museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, you are correct in that saying this is just the start, and most full-fledged museums these days have a digital adjunct. It's recognized as both a place to do business. I mean, it's always been a place to sell tickets and advertise programming, but what's happening now is it's becoming another way to experience the collections, and that offers opportunities both to sometimes people like that we hear about from research requests to say, well, I was born in Hamilton, I now live in Comox, British Columbia, but I would love to. And so for people like that, it offers them a way to participate. But the reason that the member, that Shirley is on the advisory group on behalf of the Citizens Committee about a Museum of Hamilton is that we envision this as the first step towards moving in that direction. As you also know, well, we have historic sites. They are historic sites, and within none of them is a single unconstrained space that is really not already tied to the operation of the site. So in the longer term, yes, we're hoping to, identify other places where things could happen under this Museums of Hamilton banner, where we could start to work with other organizations. If the library, for instance, has exhibit space that it's not programming, we would program it with them. So yes, absolutely, it's the start of all of this. And I have only half jokingly said to my colleagues that I am well aware that we have an artifact tsunami that is waiting to wash over us once we begin to address this more broadly, which is one of the reasons it's so exciting, because you really don't need to collect any more objects to furnish the site. They're up, they're running, they're great, and they're all set. So in a sense, this is the next phase of the work of heritage resource management. And we just happen to have a means also to get us through this COVID period for as long as it lasts. And after that, and in the words of Dr. Seuss, "Oh, the places you'll go" is the other theme we're working on here. So I look forward to engaging with all of the city's heritage communities, including yourselves, because right now, you know, the museums are here and built heritage is here, and other than speaking with Alyssa, they don't really intersect. And I would look for a much greater degree of intersection and involvement with all of the things that encompass the city's heritage.
Thank you.
So stay tuned is the short answer to all of that.
Will here.
Will, just before you speak, I actually have Graham next on my list, and then we'll bring you in for questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Graham?
Didn't want to unmute there. Okay, like Janice, I was involved in the reimagining the museums thing. She went to the one down at Thunder and Castle. I went to the one at Terryberry Library. And we haven't heard a lot of result out of that yet. And we know that there's 1,000,001 artifacts sitting there, undocumented, unpictured, inaccessible to the citizens of Hamilton, even though we own it. We're wondering if this is going to be part of your project to go through the documentation and accessing of some of these old artifacts and letting us know the history of these pieces.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I'm actually pleased to say that we don't yet own 1,000,001 artifacts. I would be more concerned if we did, and they would be stored on the roof at our Burlington Street facility. But yes, absolutely. I think this project and the I guess kind of public notification that we have heard very clearly from people that there is a very strong desire to see us reach out beyond our existing sites to address more than the histories that we have told through them in the past is essentially the first reaction to the public consultations. Because when you read through the report, as I have any number of times, that message comes out loudly and clearly that what you do is great. We love it. It's a few minor tweaks, but we would really like you to see you do more, reach out more broadly, and engage more broadly. So this is the start of through the means of the anniversary. This is a start of a much broader discussion. Yes, absolutely. And yes, many museums often make their collections available through their websites, and that allows people to do things that they couldn't otherwise do. I mean, museums can allow people to go into their storage areas and essentially put together their own exhibits about their favorite artifacts and tell people why they're their favorite ones. So there's a whole range of things that will follow, again, once we get this platform built and begin to sort of flow our resources into it. But it really is founded on access to the city's heritage and everything from the physical to the intellectual to the emotional and all points in between. So yes, stay tuned again.
Will, you're next on the speakers list.
Hi. I just want to pass on a comment that this sounds like just an expansion of Hamilton Civic Museums and the museums that represent not the whole story of the city. And I think it's not really any kind of true museum of Hamilton at all. It's going to take them a long time to do that. And we'll probably be able to have a real museum first, but not run by Hamilton Resource Management or Heritage Resource Management. Just wanted my comment.
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, this is, as I've said a couple of times, this is the start of any number of initiatives. And in order to create a Museum of Hamilton, we need to broaden our, both our understanding. I'm speaking in terms of staff now, we need to broaden our approach to it. We need to reach out more widely, and we need to extend our thinking to cover the whole city and not just the operation of our sites. And so that is very definitely on my agenda. As you rightly point out, it is a long-term project, but this is the start of moving in that direction and responding to the messages that we have heard loudly and clearly through our engagements. We will also be conducting more engagements and offering a number of wider ways to get involved with us than we have been able to offer in the past, as we expand our scope beyond offering the 7 or 8 sites that we operate now. So thank you, and I look forward to working with all of you as we move into this project.
That's fantastic. If there's no other questions for our presenters, well, thank you, John. And oh, Robin, did you have a follow-up question? Just we can't hear you.
Is that good? Or?
Yep, we can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. You talked about this being a legacy for the Hamilton 175. Now, in 1967, the legacy that they chose was Dundurn Castle and the restoration there, and it's still there today. And that's a tactile thing. That's a museum now, a National Historical Site. Why did you not go in that direction for another site like Akmar or another site that the city owns? And I think Akmar would be the one that comes to mind because that's what I'm wearing. But why would you not have a physical legacy? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think we shall. The challenge here was that this was broached to us last September. And so when we looked at what we have, and I freely admit we have some projects that have yet to reach their conclusion, partly because of the scope and complexity and physical and financial costs of them, Akmar being a site of both huge potential and also huge requirements to bring it fully to life. The thing we didn't have at this point was a meaningful digital presence. And so as both a way to get through COVID and as an extension of our ability to engage as widely as possible, this seemed like a place to start. And it also had the advantage of being doable within the available funding. And because the check we got from the mayor was not blank. The check we got from council was not blank. Unfortunately, the number was filled in. I looked at that, but it was already filled in. So this seemed like a way to acknowledge the occasion and create ourselves a platform and a tool to use and a way to signal the start of a much broader and wider engagement. So only the beginning, as a number of the speakers have noted here. And we look forward to working on all of this as years go by.
As years go by.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Cynthia. That was a great presentation. I think it's a fantastic initiative that's happening. And would we be able to invite you back at the next milestone to give us a follow-up?
I was just going to say we look forward to a return engagement, absolutely, and we'll keep you apprised of progress.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we move on, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation?
I see Graham and I see Lynn.
We'll now vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Thank you, everyone. We move next into our public hearings and delegations. Before we begin to hear from our delegates, I would like to remind the members that questions to the delegates are for clarification purposes only and not to conduct a debate. I will also remind our delegates that they have 5 minutes to present. So if he's still on the line, we welcome Adam Kalilo. Adam, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me? Hi, how are you?
Hello there. Welcome.
My brother and I, Lucas.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We own 322 Mount Albion together. We currently are in Mount Albion as well. We live there. So do we start or?
Oh. Yes, go right ahead. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to share our screen to our just so we could all kind of see what the property is. And so can everyone see that?
Yes.
You can see it? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. We'll just kind of go through it. Like what I know, we got that package in the mail that showed the property with the wraparound porch, like original windows and so on. We just want to show what the house actually looks like currently. So over the years, I guess we owned this house for 1 year, Adam and I, and we renovated the inside obviously because it wasn't designated heritage, right? So around this was the old cover. Sorry, right here was the old covered porch, I guess, that was around it. So now it's just all new aluminum, updated windows. This wasn't us. This was just previously done, I guess. We'll go through as well just to show the front. You know, everything was just changed. On the property itself, there's an original, well, not original, sorry, a 70s garage. So yeah, so in the pamphlet that got sent to us, they said there was a big barn and vineyards and stuff like that. That's all been severed off of the property. It's actually we're sitting right in the middle of a new subdivision, like a 40-year-old subdivision. So I have photos here as well of just like this Interlock Foundation. This is the only auxiliary building on the lot currently. Right here, this is the inside. We're just going to show you the inside, what it looks like now. I'm an overview. And that's the rear of the property there. And then that's this is the rear again, just to show the subdivision. I guess this is where the barns and stuff used to be. That's the back of the 70s garage. The rear again. This is the front with the garage and the house itself. And then there, the front again. And then that's the rooftop that's been redone, torched down. Now, Adam and I were just wondering, I know because we're going through this severance process. How can I go back to the... Yeah. So we're going through the severance process, and obviously this has been brought up again, but we're preserving the house with the severance. We're keeping the house. We're living inside of the house here. So there's no intentions to tear down the house. But I guess that's why it was brought up to the Heritage Committee. I know it's unlisted right now.
Yes.
So. Yeah. So Adam and I just, we bought the house non-heritage, and we wouldn't like it to be registered as a heritage house. Because I think a lot of the elements in the house have just been already over the years taken away.
Okay.
And it said it noted in the booklet that we got in the mail that the lands want to be designated as heritage as well. Is there any...
Alyssa, are you familiar with the package that was sent to the property owners?
Yeah, through the chair. So included in the package was what was brought forward to the Inventory and Research Working Group, which referred this recommendation up to this main committee, and it included history and research over of the property and its historic context. The recommendation that's in the package is to list it on the register. So listing it on the register, you list the real property, so the entire property. Listing on the register would not impose any conditions or requirements for heritage permits to make changes to the property. It would just list it as being of heritage interest should any further development applications be brought forward under the Planning Act. The second part of the recommendation, though, is to look at it for designation. So that is a separate process which would involve comprehensive research and evaluation of the property. There could potentially be contextual value and features of the larger property beyond just the house that would be identified, but that would need to go through that evaluation process. Initial conversations that we had with Adam and Lucas, we had identified that the confirmation that the rear accessory structure is not of any heritage interest, so that would not be something that we would anticipate being included. But this is an unusual property that's surrounded by later subdivision development all around it. So its presence on the lot is an interesting feature in terms of its setback, but something that's already been looked at as a part of the severance application process and certainly a part of that review.
Okay,
like we said, we have kept the.
Yeah, with the severance, we kept the house in the plans. There's no intentions to tear it down. And I don't know if you have access to our severance plans. It just it maintains the house.
Yeah, we incorporate the house fully.
Yeah, so we're living in the house currently, and we're not, as you've seen the photos, we don't plan on moving anytime soon. I don't know what else. Is there anything else that you could shed light on, like how this all works, or it's our first time ever?
Through the chair, I'm happy to answer that. So I know we had some initial conversations following the Inventory and Research Working Group's recommendations, where I did speak to what the potential for listing on the register would mean, that it would not prevent changes from happening to the property, that obviously a number of modifications and updates have already been made to the existing historic structure, but that it does still retain heritage value or interest that's worthy of recognition by listing on the register. Where there might be some potential implications is if further review is conducted, if this committee does make that recommendation for staff to conduct further analysis to determine if it's worthy of designation. That is a formal legal process where we would be notifying you of any notice of intention to designate. We at the city here, as a part of that process, also engage very early on, beyond just the legislative requirements, to discuss what it would mean and to go over what features potentially could be recommended for designation. And there is a formal process to actually appeal a notice of intention to designate if council were to proceed with that following that review. So that would be a much larger, more comprehensive process. In terms of the implications of the recommendations as they are right now, it would just be to list your property on the register. So again, there wouldn't be any requirements for heritage permits or approvals to make changes to your property, continue to make updates. We've already reviewed the heritage impact as a part of the severance process, but I do understand that that appeal is ongoing. So there would be no direct implication as of right now in terms of listing your property on the register.
So when it conflict with our current severance is what you're saying?
Through the chair, no, there would not be a conflict with your current severance. It was identified as having heritage value as a part of that application, and heritage staff provided those comments already. It wouldn't prevent the severance from continuing, but we did already consider that as a part of those comments.
Okay, so yeah, basically, what's going forward now? Do you need anything more from Adam and I? We just rather have it, obviously not designated as heritage, because there's a lot of things that come with that for the property that we think there's no more alterations going to be done to the property anyways, so it really doesn't matter.
I think that, like, to point out the key features have been unfortunately taken away many years ago. Yeah, like the wraparound porch, the rooftop, the old rooftop pieces.
Yeah, we just want to understand that the land itself, like, yes, we're keeping the heritage home and we're going through the severance process. It's just that's what we want to, that's what we're trying to achieve here, right? Is getting those extra lots. So I think we're good. I don't know if you need if you need us to stay on, or is there a talk about the next steps?
Well, we can open it up to questions from the members if anyone has any questions. If I can just, by show of hands, we'll start a speakers list. So I have Chuck. Is there anyone else wishing to? And Bill? Okay, so we'll begin with Chuck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, through the chair, and this question's for Adam and Lucas. You've mentioned severance several times in your discussion. Can you clarify what your plans are regarding the severance in this property? The people, or I certainly don't. I don't think the other committee members understand what you're referring to.
Okay. It's basically the division of the lots. So like the house itself, like we're just creating new lots around, like on the back. If you've seen in the back of the property, there's the back end fits 3 lots that are identical to across the street without tearing the house down or touching the house. So it'd be a creation of 3 new lots on the rear. Because as you've seen, there's a street in the rear there, but we don't have access yet to the rear. But 3 houses could fit on that rear in the subdivision plan there.
And we would be looking to build like his family home and my family home
in the rear, yeah,
on the Glen Forest Ave portion of because it fronts on both Mount Albion and
Glen Forest. So the property is about 230 deep and 143 wide. Sorry, and the old house sits to the Mount Albion side, to the front upright side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chuck? No other questions, Chuck? Bill, and then I saw Tim had raised his hand.
Actually, I was going to ask about the severance as well. What is the current status of the severance application?
So basically, we went to the hearing. What is it? The Committee of Adjustments, and we got turned down. But it's because the neighbors just are kind of are more concerned with what we're building and stuff there. So we're going to LPAT, but the city planners are basically on zoning, and it meets all of the zoning requirements. It's just kind of a neighborhood thing. It's an older neighborhood.
They just didn't understand what we were planning on doing. They
Yeah.
thought they thought that we were building townhouses, a building, this, that, but we're actually just building single family homes for ourselves to live in.
Mm-hmm. So we're going right now. We're talking back and forth with the councilor. We shed a lot of light with we talked to a lot of the neighbors. Unfortunately, with this COVID, we couldn't really have like a group meeting. So Adam and I have been reaching out now via phone call to the neighbors and clarifying like parking, because which is right. They didn't know that we're gonna have driveways that accommodate cars, right? So they didn't want they didn't want more cars on the street than were needed, which we totally understand. So we're basically, we're rectifying any issues that the neighbors have, and it should be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. And then Tim, you're next.
Yes, through the chair to the applicants. Just quick clarification. So in the Severance area, you're going to build new houses that you're going to live in. What's going to happen to the heritage house at the front?
Oh, no, it's the heritage houses. So if you see the Severance plan, Adam, actually, can you pull it out of that package? The house itself is staying, the old house.
Yeah, we specifically went around to keep the integrity of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Because the house itself.
No, but my question is, you're building new houses for yourself, so you're going to move out of the other house, right?
Yeah. So our parents are going to move into this house. We put a lot of money into the house itself.
Oh, so they're gonna live in the old house.
Yes. We're currently living in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just my question, because it's to do with continuation of a property, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the registry protects.
Yeah, we are keeping the property.
Yeah, so Adam and I actually grew up in this neighborhood. We went down the street to St. Luke's school and church. It's very sentimental to us, so we're going to keep the whole property. It's kind of be like the Colilo house.
You're building a homestead.
Oh, yeah, you know what? We're Italian. Like the European way is like, we have kids. We have free babysitters in the backyard now.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions?
I can't. No, I just can't see registering this property as being anyway an object to what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you know what? We're new to this. So
I think everything's going perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to. It's our first time doing this. Yeah, we don't know how it all works, and I know it has been brought to attention because of the severance. So I don't know if it's an attempt
to kind of
to slow down the process. I don't know how it all works. So we just want to come on here and put some clarity on what our plans are.
No, and I'm glad you could join us today, because I think the intent is just there's concern that the heritage property may have been lost. So it's necessary to take some steps to just make sure that it's protected. And being on the register doesn't mean that something can't be changed, but it just gives 60 days protection being on that register.
Yeah, Adam and I put a lot of money into this house. It's not going anywhere. And then if you see the severance plans, you'll see that the house, the reason why we're going for all these variances is because we're keeping that old house. So
yeah, it's actually been a little bit of a process to keep the house, which we are going to continue to do so.
Yeah,
right.
Because they don't build these anymore, right?
It's 7,500 square feet above grade. Right?
Yeah.
Alyssa, did you have a comment?
Sure. I just was going to say I have the plan from the severance application, just if the committee did want to take a quick look to see what they're speaking to.
Oh, that's perfect.
Please. Yes. Okay. I will share that. Just one sec. Hopefully you see what I see. So here's the existing conditions. Mount Albion's to the right, and the existing home and the non-historic garage at the back. And just the extent of the severance is to retain the existing historic structure and introduce additional single detached dwellings. Okay.
It's perfect.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Alyssa.
No problem.
So if there's no other questions for our presenter, I think we can thank them for their time today.
Mm-hmm.
No other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you presenting today.
Thank you. Do you need to leave it now?
I'll let Lorraine jump in and give the instructions.
Through you, Madam Chair. You can stay on at the meeting, but your delegation is now complete. So we do need a mover and seconder to receive the delegation. But otherwise, you can stay on, but the discussion around this item is now complete.
So I saw that as a mover and a seconder, we had Graham and we had Karen. And we'll now vote. Is there any opposed to receiving this delegate's presentation? Seeing none, we'll now move on to the discussion item, which is 10.1. So that's the Inventory and Research Working Group recommendations respecting 322 Mount Albion Road in Hamilton, which was deferred from our last meeting. And the recommendation that is before us is that 322 Mount Albion Road be added to the Municipal Heritage Register and to the staff work plan for heritage designation under Ontario Heritage Act. And we have the appendix documents. Is there some discussion that we'd like to have on this item?
No speakers.
Janice?
I don't know about discussion, but a comment is there. They seem to not be concerned about the fact that it go on the register, but I'm not so sure that they were not concerned about it being designated. So, knowing that one would have 60 days, and apparently the severance is dependent upon the house staying, I could see going on the register, but I'm not sure about designation. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Yeah. Is there any other comments that Graham?
Yep. I 100% feel this should be on the designation work plan because it is a beautiful home, unusual for the area, still existing, in great shape. Even though the windows are gone, the porches are gone, the Whittles walk rails across the top are gone, it still has the same basic shape, window openings, bricks, stone moldings. So it deserves protection. It does not appear to be in big danger, so it's not like we have to rush on to it tomorrow. But I'd like to see it on the designation work plan, but not with a super high priority. These two guys seem to care about the building, so I'm not worried about it.
Do we have any other questions or comments in regards? So before us, we have the recommendation that it be added to the register and the work plan for designation. Is there any, we move forward with that recommendation or we can amend? Janice?
Well, I have a question. I can support going on the register, but I would be voting against putting it forward on the work plan. So do I just abstain in my vote?
Oh, Councillor Pearson, would you like to comment?
You could split the vote if that's in two sections. And Lorraine can clarify. Sorry, Lorraine, I wanted to be sure you had me in on the meeting now too. Thanks.
I do, and I was going to say the very same thing, Councillor, and not just because you're a councillor, but because you're right. We can split the, if the committee wishes, we can split the recommendation into two parts. And I will ask, we will flip the way we're going to do this vote because I'm getting a sense that there might be some I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for, but I'd like to have a show of hands for those who are approving each section instead of just opposed, if you know what I mean. So I can see who might be in opposition.
Can you, excuse me, I'm lost. Could you say that again, Lorraine?
So how we've been doing the votes, Janice, throughout this meeting is that we ask for a show of hands for those who are opposed. For this vote, because I'm splitting the recommendations in two, I'm going to ask for the opposite of that. I'm going to ask for people to show me their hands when they approve of one of the sections.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. That's perfect.
Okay. So whenever you're ready to do this, there might be more discussion.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions, discussion on this? Otherwise, we will do a split vote. So we will first vote for the recommendation that 322 Mount Albion Road be added to the Municipal Heritage Register. So by show of hands, all that are in favor of that recommendation.
That carries unanimously.
And David and Will, if we could also just get comment from yourselves.
Yeah, David approved.
Yes, thank you.
And Will? Will, you may be on mute.
He is muted, Madam Chair. He may have stepped away, I'm not sure.
Okay, but I said we do have that item as carried. And then, so the next portion then would be that 322 Mount Albion Road be added to staff's work plan for heritage designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. By show of hands, all those that approve of adding it to the designation work plan.
Okay.
David and
I'll approve. Yes.
And Will, if you're on the line. Okay, and with that, the motion has carried for that as well.
Thank you,
I'm the Lone Ranger. Not unusual. Know the song?
All right. So if there's no further discussion on that item, we now move to our notice of motion. So we have a notice of motion regarding the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee membership. I understand that Chuck would like to waive the rules to allow an introduction. Can I get a mover and a seconder to move to waive the rules? Bill and Tim, all in favor? Anyway, all opposed? If there's...
Sorry, Madam Chair.
I reverted back to the old ways.
And that's fine. We can go back to and is there anyone opposed now?
If there's no one opposed, then that item is carried. So we will move on to the motion. Chuck, would you like to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the background to this motion is in the last year, the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee has received 2 resignations of its citizen members. So that's put us from 10, there's normally 10, or sorry, City Council approved 10 at the beginning of the term, and now we have 8. The issue that has arisen is that we've had challenges at times on reaching quorum for the meetings, and it typically involves, and the meetings, well, not typically, they always involve members of the public at large. And we've been close to not having meetings start on time, but we've been lucky so far. So the subcommittee has approached the clerk about any actions that could take place to rectify the situation. Normally, and not normally, the City Council is tasked with approving all membership on the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee. What we've asked, in light of COVID and many other factors, the length of the term, we've asked the city clerk to approach City Council with a motion that basically gets us to the end of the term. And what we've proposed is having a member, at least one member of the citizen group on the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee, take on an additional role on the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee. And again, this will go before City Council for approval. The way this is done normally is that there would be an external solicitation of from the public at large, and that's been done when when there's longer periods of time in the term, and when things like COVID aren't factoring. So in light of all of that, a motion has been prepared regarding membership of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, and I believe it's in the addendum, but I will read it now. And the motion is regarding membership of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, whereas the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee has 2 vacancies in its current membership, whereas members of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee are permitted to sit on the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee, whereas members of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee have asked Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee members for an additional member, and whereas additions to memberships must be approved by council, therefore it be resolved that the appointment of Karen Burke as a member of the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee be referred to council for their consideration. So that's the motion. I guess at this point, can I have, I know it's written on this that Tim Ritchie is moving this. For Lorraine, if I can ask for the city clerk guidance in this, do I ask for a second from the committee, or can I provide that?
It's actually the chair, Alyssa, the chair, that will ask for a seconder.
Okay.
Traditionally, the person who is reading out the motion is the mover. So, Charles, I would consider you as the mover, and so we do need a seconder.
Okay, so I will move it then, and that's I'm just reading off the page. So, thank you.
And I also saw that Councillor Pearson had her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. Actually, I just printed the motion out, so thank you for that. I think it's commendable that you're doing this because it saves, and Lorraine will verify, because Lorraine's our secretary for this election committee, and what process would be involved in advertising and interviewing or whatever going forward to try and replace this member. And I think it's commendable that it's a member that's on the committee currently that knows the process and everything. So very supportive of this, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask, so through to Lorraine. Lorraine, would you be giving the selection committee chair a heads up of this coming forward when it comes to our GIC meeting?
This actually, if I may, through the chair, this heritage reports up to planning. So then this will go up to planning. I can certainly do that.
I think it would be appropriate so that she's aware of that, Madam Chair, through you. And certainly if need, I will express my comments as I've expressed now. So thank you, everyone. One other question. Do you feel because there's still a vacancy that there's a concern, or you're comfortable with this meeting your needs till the end of this term?
So,
well, Chuck, if you'd like to address that, and then I think Graham wanted to comment as well.
Yes, I'd be happy to comment. So through the chair and in response to Councillor Pearson, I think one person would be satisfactory for it's a little under 2 years now, or plus or minus, to the end of the term. That being said, we would be, I didn't realize that there would be interest from the committee for a second member until earlier today. I would be certainly open to that. I mean, the issue obviously is if additional members resign, then we'll be in the exact same position, obviously. So I can go either way, and I think the vice chair could go either way on this too. We would be happy to fill if there's interest, with a second member. But that being said, and save the potential future request for an additional member, assuming there's additional resignations in the future. But that part's speculative, obviously. So I would be satisfied with either path. But we would certainly be open to an additional member too from this committee, if City Council would also support that too.
Yeah. So I'm okay, Madam Chair. Thank you, Charles, for that. I'm okay with this motion going forward, and at the appropriate time, should another person step up to the plate and say they're interested, you can always do another notice of motion. So as long as the committee is satisfied that I can encourage my colleagues supporting this, that you feel comfortable that your needs are being met as far as representation on this subcommittee. Okay.
Thank you for that. And Graham, did you want to speak?
I just wanted to say, until I read this motion today in the package, I didn't know there was openings on the committee and a need, so I didn't express my interest until this morning. So hopefully Chuck can find out if they want another member, and I'll be willing to step in and help out.
Oh, Councilor Pearson? Yeah.
Well, so we can wait, or would you prefer, and maybe Lorraine can jump in and assist. Lorraine, would it be more appropriate to replace both members today on the motion going forward to planning to save confusion?
The motion certainly can be amended.
Is that I'm just going to throw it back to you, Madam Chair, if that's the interest of the committee members and the member putting his name forward today.
So if I can add a comment to this, so I would certainly, as the chair, and I think the vice chair will pipe in on this too, who's on the call as well, we would certainly support a second member joining the Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee from the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee. We would, and as such, we would certainly support amending the motion today, with a second member. And again, I've spoken for Tim a couple of times here, but he's more than willing.
He's raised his hand already.
Right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
I think.
I'll let Tim speak first.
I'm piping in now. Yeah, just through the chair to, I guess, the clerk. Just a question of procedure of the makeup of the permit review committee. I know most of the members on it, aside generally from the chair and the vice chair, are not members of other committees. I think the idea is to try and broaden the people that make up that committee. I just wonder for some clarification for how the selection committee decides, because generally it is made from it's probably one of the more, I use the term diverse very loosely when describing this committee, but it has a much broader background of people age-wise, as far as I'll go to say on it, than other committees. So I don't know if we want to get too redundant with, this committee also being the entirety of the permit review. And that's my questions to staff and clerk, I guess.
Alyssa Golden?
Through the chair, I just was going to note, in terms of our goals for the makeup of permit review, we do try to have representation from members who actually reside in our 7 heritage conservation districts, as well as representing the communities across the city of Hamilton at large, to be able to represent the interests of those individual communities and areas. So that's certainly one of the main considerations that we look for, as well experience and expertise related to heritage conservation, construction, architecture, things like that. So those are generally the goals of recruitment for the subcommittee.
Janice, you had a question?
I just following up on what Alyssa Golden said. I understand broadening the committee, and the 7 conservation districts, but this whole thing about experience with regard to architecture and built form, etc. I think Karen and Graham fit that bill, and from my perspective, I think that's what's really important in granting these permits, so we do not destroy our built heritage. That's my thoughts on this. But Tim is certainly right. If there is other rules in place, which I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to keep in mind too,
sorry,
it's
through
to
the
get us
chair.
through the two years that are remaining. Chuck, go ahead.
This is a special situation, I'm guessing. Sorry, through the chair.
Yeah, sorry. So I agree with a lot of the comments here. I mean, one of the great things about heritage permit is we typically have, you know, that geographic diversity, if I can use that again, diversity loosely, as Tim did earlier. And we have people, you know, from the heritage conservation districts and they bring a very, very unique perspective to it. One of the great things about Karen joining, and I supported right from the word go, is that we get a lot of permits from the Dundas area. And we at the current time, we do not have representatives from Dundas who live and, you know, deal with the community every day. So that's for sure a goal, and, you know, something that we've supported right from the word go. But that being said, you know, I think this is almost a special case due to the environment that we're in. I would, you know, welcome people from, you know, different areas of the city. And as I said, you know, it's the permit review subcommittee is richer because of that. You know, when I think of, you know, the representative from Waterdown, who's one of the strongest members of the committee, and as I said, you know, I'd support that. But I'm also, you know, the request was initially for that reason, and then also, you know, to, if you will, get to the end of the term, right? Because of the considerations and the environment that we're all facing right now. So it's really, you know, the request is for both aspects of it, in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And I think the other thing to consider too is if we have the volunteer resources available to us, especially with everyone being strained through COVID, and I know it's been a really trying time, if we've got those extra volunteers, then and we're able to add them for the next 2 years just to get us through, I think that would be wonderful. So right now we have the motion before us is just for one member. We can either move forward with that motion, and I believe Tim was going to second that, or we can amend the motion to include for the 2 members. What would the committee like to do?
I'd like to see us move forward with the 2.
And Robin, I believe you were motioning that as well. Okay, Chuck is fine with that. So yes. if we could amend our motion, Lorraine, do you need any?
So, Madam Clerk, if I could get the mover and seconder for the amendment will be Chuck Dimitri and Tim Ritchie, and then we will have a second vote on the motion as amended. So first vote is for the amendment.
So if there's no one opposed.
Okay.
Yes, we are going back to the way we did it before. Sorry.
So if anyone is opposed, then raise your hand. So that is carried. And our next vote?
Our next vote is on the main motion as amended.
Is there anyone opposed? Please raise your hand.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson.
Okay. So that item is carried. And Councillor Pearson, did you?
Question, can we just officially add the name in the motion?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
The motion will, as you see it in the minutes and the report that's going up to planning, will have both names in it now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Congrats.
And thank you to our 2 members for volunteering. I think that's fantastic that we can get those extra resources. And I know, as Chuck mentioned, we're getting more and more heritage permits, and extra eyes and thoughts in that whole process is only beneficial. So I think that's fantastic. So hopefully we get some good news through council. So we'll move now on to our general information and other business. So at this time, we'll talk about our list of buildings and landscapes. So I think what we'll do is by raise of hands, who has reports for properties that they'd like to do. So I see Tim.
No, sorry, it's actually still, before we move on to that, we'd had some emails back and forth. It's to do with this thing. It was to do with the Cross Melville permit review as well. That's the one where we were hoping Karen would also replace me on that one, but I didn't know what got motioned for that.
sorry, Tim, it's through the clerk. No, through the chair. Pardon me. It's Lorraine Kohler. We'll have to take that offline. I'm still sorting that out.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. So our buildings update. So if I, by show of hands, who would like to report on some properties, we'll get a speakers list started. So I saw Robin first, Janice and Tim and Graham. So we'll start with.
I need to speak as well.
Okay, and David. Okay, so Robin, we'll start with you.
Yes, 13-1A, number 9, 120 Park Street. The windows on the second floor have still not been put in or replaced. And so it's open to the elements again. Maybe Bylaw needs to go again and take a look. But it does have the roof gone down. Also, 14 XIV, the Akmar Gatehouse. I would like to ask staff where the designation for that is at this point. It was number 1 on the hit list. What's going forward with that designation? Thank you.
Through the chair, so just quickly on 120 Park Street North, it is under active building permit, but I will confirm with property standards if there's a concern in terms of the windows in light of that. In terms of the Akmar Gatehouse and designations, during this staffing transition, all of our designation work has been on hold. There are a number of properties on the current year work plan. The Gatehouse is one of the more complicated ones, and obviously there's ongoing conversations around a number of items. So there's no update at this point in terms of the timing of that.
Okay. Robin, did you have any other property updates that you were looking to make? So we'll move on to Janice.
13.1A, and it is number 7, Roman numeral 7, James Street Baptist. Councillor Farr has informed the DNA that he is meeting Monday with the project manager, Luke, so I'll follow up with Councillor Farr, and hopefully the next meeting we might have some good news about this property. Number 6, oh, isn't that awful? I forget my Roman numeral numbers. Number 16, Television City. I still have not received anything from Alyssa with regard to the MLE report on Pinehurst and the status of the vegetation. Part of it has been removed, but not all. Hello, Alyssa.
Alyssa, are you?
No, there's nothing.
Yeah, through the chair. So just a quick update on James Street Baptist. Staff continue to receive the monitoring reports required through the heritage permit application. There was recently just some repair work to the east trough to ensure that water continued to be filtered away from the building. So that work was recently completed, just for your information. And in terms of Pinehurst property, the conversations with municipal law enforcement continue. They are aware that the remainder of the vines had not been removed and continue to take action on that.
Thank you. And can I continue?
Yes, we'll go through all your properties.
Okay, thank you. 13.1.B, and this is number 16, 54 Hess Street South. It's on, but that will change following next month's Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee meeting because inventory and research met, and I did a bit of a preliminary evaluation, and we have added 5456 to the watch list. That's the recommendation, and to put on to add it to the work plan. It has been changed to now a significant built heritage property, but that will come up at our next meeting. And that's it for me. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Janice. So Robin, I see your hand up, but you've already spoken once, so if we'll wait until unless you had an update specific to that. to one of Janice's properties?
No, I thought we were just going to go one section at a time.
Oh, no, I was doing by volunteer members. So I'll loop back to you if you want to.
Yeah, okay. I have some very important news on 13.1.B, and that is number 13, the Beach Canal Lighthouse and Cottage. The federal government has transferred the ownership of the lighthouse and the Keeper's Cottage to the Harbor Commission. It is now out of the ownership of the feds, and it's now Hamilton owned again. So that is big news.
That's great.
Yeah. There's more to come.
Good. Thank you, Robin.
Okay.
So next we have Tim.
Mine's very, very short. It's only got two items quickly. One, it's been very good dealing with Alyssa Golden, heading it to the bylaw enforcement for the Cannon knitting mills. The owner has actually started boarding up large portions of the pigeon condos that had existed there. And they don't pay any deposits. So that has happened. It is still widely covered in graffiti. So hasn't seemed to be any motion on that. It could be weather related, but in another week's time, we can send more photos onward if that hasn't been addressed, and hopefully that gets promptly to property standards. And the second thing I want to add, and just if the chair could direct me if this is appropriate to add another property to our list at this time, or would that wait till the end?
Maybe if you don't mind, maybe we'll wait till the end, because I think there's another property that we'll want to discuss. So if you can just keep that as a bookmark, and then we'll come back. Any other properties on the list currently, Tim?
None that I have any updates on.
Okay. Graham, you're next on the speaker's list.
Yeah. Tim, I'm sure the pigeons are making frequent deposits. The Long and Bisbee building is the only one I'm going to talk about. I'm going to pass it off to Chuck, so he's had a little comment to make as well. I'm hearing there was one more break-in on the property. Looking at it, the owners are keeping the property in really good shape. They're doing some work in behind with clearing all the trees out they illegally took down and planting new trees. So that looks pretty good along in there. So it looks really good along in that building. I'm hopeful still for the Long and Bisbee. And so Chuck had a little update on the windows for us.
Yeah, and thanks for letting me piggyback on your property. So on the April 20th Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee meeting, we received a permit application from Valerie Homes related to Long and Bisbee to replace, maybe replace isn't the right word because the windows are gone, but to install 47 windows in the Long and Bisbee building. And that's at all levels, the basement, first floor, second floor. You know, the discussion, or the Valerie Homes was represented by Anita Valeri and a director of business development at the permit review. There was significant discussion around it, around their application and the windows design, and they were certainly very open to comments received from the committee. And we came up with, you know, a very positive solution for that. In fact, it was a really positive meeting overall, to echo what Graham was saying, in that they shared a little bit about their future plans, because there's obviously going to have to be significant work done on the Long and Bisbee building, and many more permits are expected. But they shared some plans about maintaining the interior, at least, you know, the walls and the overall kind of footprint of the building as well, and keeping what they possibly could of Long and Bisbee. And if you remember, this is going to be their future headquarters of Valerie Homes. So, you know, the biggest issue, just to finalize on the windows, the design was finalized on a 1x1 hung style windows. And that matches exactly the windows that were there when it was built in, you know, in the 1910s or 1920s. So the biggest issues, though, are around security, as Graham's mentioned. the windows probably won't go in for a little while because they have other issues to address before that, and they're worried that they might get smashed, or broken. So they're going to put in, kind of block out some of the concrete, block out some of the windows temporarily in the basement level to hopefully mitigate. But and we spent a good chunk of the discussion around security issues and recommendations and things the city could potentially do to help in this in maintaining the security of the building, and even enlisting support of the neighbors, the eyes of people living in the neighborhood, and that's everything from things like signs and cameras and just having even having an involvement from other members of city or police to have to keep an eye out on the property. So all in all, it was the most positive discussion I've had on Long and Bisbee, or at least listened to, in quite some time. And I'm certainly, although there's tons of work to be done, and there's going to be many more permits in the future, and I have a feeling I'll report on it, or Graham will report on it going forward. It's the most positive thing I've heard in a long time with respect to Long and Bisbee. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. And Tim, I think, wants to follow up on a comment, and then maybe Robin on the same property. So Tim, go ahead.
Just a quick question to Graham, if you might know this. Does the Cross of Lorraine also fall under this watch list item for you on this property?
I don't think so, but I do go by it and I look at it to make sure it's not being damaged. It is under the notice of intent to designate for the Long and Bisbee designation, so it will be looked after. But no one's really hassling that, thankfully.
Robin, did you have a comment on the Long and Bisbee?
It was under the same idea of the Cross of Lorraine. I was under the impression that the designation was both the building and the cross. And so if that's the case, then we should have that on the viewing as to it's not just the building, it also is the Cross of Lorraine. And it is deteriorating.
It is. I watch it, like, when I go by, I'm looking at both. I'm not just looking at the one little thing. I'm also looking at the bridge, the stone abutments for the old bridge over top of the falls. Like, I'm looking at everything, right, that does with the property. But it was mainly danger to weather, because the building being open, fire from the trespassers, urban explorers going in. Like, there was all kinds of troubles like a year ago. Since they've been paying more attention to it, the building has been a lot more safe. They put the big, huge fence around it. It's been a lot more secure. So hopefully things are looking positive. But I don't see anyone doing damage to the Cross of Lorraine. It is deteriorating because of neglect, but that's our fault as a city. Hopefully we'll get it looked after.
I thought the ownership was actually Bisbee.
Oh, Alyssa, you're muted. But yes, Graham was correct. The recent designation bylaw that was just passed, actually on the 31st of March for the property, does include the Cross of Lorraine, and it was determined. I think the staff report came forward last year or the year before to confirm that it is on the same parcel, which includes 828 Sanatorium and 870 Scenic Drive. And as a part of the ongoing development application for that property, we're in discussions in terms of opportunities to potentially have that land dedicated back to the city to facilitate its conservation. But that's an ongoing conversation.
Thank you. Janice?
And this is just moving forward on the Cross of Lorraine. About 2 weeks ago, Mary Louise Piggott from Maureen Wilson's office through Messenger contacted both myself and Tim, and apparently there was somebody that was interested in restoring the Cross of Lorraine, and I put him on to Alyssa Golden, I think. I said you would be the person to talk to, and I think, Alyssa, you might have been Denham Robinson as well. I can't remember, but anyway, just pass that information on, so I have no idea where that rests, because I obviously did not know anything or could do anything.
Alyssa?
Yes, that resident through the ward councillor's office did get in touch, and we had a good conversation. I gave him an update on various conversations and the status of the property as well.
Okay, so that's on board. That's it.
Robin?
Just a thought too here with the Mountain Heritage. It may be a project for them too. The Cross of Lorraine.
So as we just close out this item, do we want to specifically add the Cross of Lorraine with the Long and Bisbee building in the line item? Or just, are we satisfied with?
I think it would be a separate item if the negotiations would be giving it back to the city. It would be under the designation of the Bisbee, but at the same time, the negotiation says it's going back to the city for conservation. So the responsibility of the conservation would be the city.
Alyssa, did you want to comment?
Through the chair, I just say administratively, so the designation bylaw refers to the site as the Mountain Sanatorium Brow Site. So you could, for the purposes of Graham, who's the member who looks after this, at least for the time being, rename that item the Brow Site, and to include also 870 Scenic Drive, which is the other municipal address, and have Graham monitor both the Bisbee building, the Cross of Lorraine, and the other landscape features that he mentioned. If it makes sense in the future to separate those out, if they're at different stages of their monitoring, then you could do that in the future.
Yeah, like, so I'm looking at it anyway, so whether it's on a separate line item or not right now doesn't really matter. If it does get separated out to different ownership, then we would look at it as a separate line item, I would think.
Okay. Is the committee open to that, making that change, that update to the item list? Okay. Lorraine, do you need any clarification from us?
I need a mover and seconder to move the motion to rename Long and Bisbee to the name that Alyssa Golden said and will say to me in a moment.
We may want to include in parentheses what the properties are associated with.
I'm glad to do that. If you can just confirm again, Alyssa Golden, the name of the property.
I'll just type that out. I'll have it for you in a sec.
Super. Okay, so we'll work on that. I just need a mover and seconder, Madam Chair.
Janice and Tim.
Terrific, thank you.
Is there anyone opposed? Raise of hand for opposed. Seeing none, we will now move on to our next item. Our next speaker. There was no other items for the. So Timmy, you're done. Graham, no other properties you want to speak of? And David, you're next on the list.
Yes, I have a few things. I would imagine most of the committee would know that there's been a considerable amount going on in St. Giles. The Friends of St. Giles, led by Dr. Sheehan and Marie Sharp, have been doing a very good job at bringing that information through to the public and through the councillor. And at the moment, it's been taken back to the New Vision group, and the councillor is going to, at some point in time, bring something else forward on possibly some sort of an adaptive reuse. At least that's what we're hoping for. But at any rate, it's not on the list of being demolished at the moment. At any rate, so that's some good news on that part. The other thing I have is on Sinclair Boulevard here. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention Sinclair Avenue, and it's 115 Sinclair Avenue. A few people actually have brought to my attention this, and it's been ongoing for a while now, that there's been an enclosure of a veranda with some plastic. Now, even though it's plastic, it looks like it's quite a permanent enclosure. So some of the people were worried about that. And so I was mentioning that stated I would mention it at the committee here, and possibly someone can take a look at that, because it certainly isn't something that that would be approved by the committee if there's going to be an enclosure on that. Just actually on that end, the Colonel Saunders building has been sold, so and somebody seems to be doing some work on it, and I see the lights are on, so at least there's something moving in the direction there. I have no idea what it is. The people aren't working there enough for me to even see them, but they have been around on occasion. On the boulevard here, we're still, in a process. What is the issue with the trees and whatnot that continues to go on? It's been going on forever here because we were supposed to have a new heritage plan that was supposed to identify who is responsible for what and who is going to contact who, and the main reason for our updated heritage plan was so that the city would contact us if they were doing anything or taking any action on the boulevard. And that was pretty simple, actually, but we haven't ever been able to achieve that over the last 10 years. And this has happened again, of course, with this tree situation. And even after I submitted a letter to almost everyone I could think of on behalf of the district, someone came around and put some marks on for new trees, which are not suitable at all. So what I'm asking, and I guess is someone, anyone who might be interested at all, would consider meeting with us to look at these locations, because they're not really acceptable for a tree location. And also, of course, the defective tree that was put in on the entranceway should be replaced as well. So if someone could meet with us here, we would be happy to talk to them. And this Heritage District plan, it's been ongoing for, I forgot now how long. I've got it here somewhere in my file, when these people came and showed us what we already knew, but didn't really say anything too much, and we haven't heard anything back from them. When our district plan was first put in, we stayed in contact continuously with of course, it was done in-house with the planners at that time, and we were able to have some input on it that we had seen what was important at the time. But we haven't had anything like that this time. There's been absolutely no contact with us, and we don't know where the plan stands. So that's an issue there. If someone could meet with us and discuss about these trees, because everyone is not too happy with the locations of these trees here. The other thing is Gage Park. You may have seen on the news another turtle was taken from the park, and recently the fish run-out spout has been found down on the east end. So it at least is some good news that we found one thing, and maybe the turtle will find its way back. It's pretty slow moving, but maybe it'll find its way back to the park. They always have, one had painted paisley colors on it at one time, so it was really partying. But anyway, maybe it will find its way back. And I'm just wondering, is there any, if staff have any information on the consideration of turning Gage Park into an asphalt parking lot? I haven't heard any more on what the direction is there. That's my questions and report.
Thank you, David. So there was a lot of items there to sort of cover off. Alyssa, did you want to address some of those?
Sure, I will take a shot through the chair. Just in terms of the questions about Gage Park and the pavement, do you know, Dave, did you engage Public Works staff who would be undertaking that? Have you spoken with someone at this point? I'm just wondering what conversations have happened so far.
No, there hasn't been anything brought forward on it. That's what I'm saying. But usually what happens is, they bring the machines in and then say, oh, does anybody have any comment? So that's what I'm saying, is that, we don't know what is going on. And of course, as long as I've been on the committee, Gage Park was the next in line to be designated. And of course, we went through all this nonsense with the firefighters. And then, I said, before anybody does something else stupid, why don't we get this thing designated? And of course, we're back here again, and with, no protection for the park again, So this is been an ongoing situation for such a long time. And, it gets pretty frustrating when there isn't anything brought forward to this committee from anyone, Public Works or anyone, to say here's what's going on in Gage Park, and this has been an ongoing problem, and so that's why I'm asking, couldn't someone come forward to this committee and say here's what's going on in Gage Park?
Okay, through the chair, thanks for that, Dave. Maybe we can connect offline to just get a confirmation of what your concerns are currently with the pathway, because I know there's the existing master plan, which should have a very large public engagement component, and the Friends of Gage Park were a part of. So I'm just wondering if this is implementation of previously approved plans. So maybe you and I can connect and just confirm what scope of work you're referring to, and I can get you in touch with the right staff who in the past have come to this committee to present on updates. I believe Cynthia Graham was here either last year or the year before. So certainly they're open to that if that's something that's the will of the committee. And in terms of the tree issues, I did see those emails come through. I wasn't aware if Public Works had followed up on the specific issues, but I'll follow up on my end and with management to just see where those conversations are so we can address those concerns as well. In terms of the study, the plan review that's underway, obviously similar to the designation work plan, with the staffing transition right now, obviously things are on hold. I know David Addington, former Heritage Planner, had taken that quite far in the process, but that probably would not be picked up until new staff are on board and up and running. So let's try to get you an update on that one as well offline.
Yes, that's fine. I think it's important that we meet on there. Somebody, meet us with these trees here, because it's not just that, it doesn't fit in with any sort of a landscape design, but it's also, there's also a maintenance problem there, which obviously somebody doesn't understand the boulevard who put those markings on. So there should be a meeting on
this. Janice, did you have a comment?
I have a question with regard to a property that David mentioned, and I'll ask Alyssa or David. 115 St. Clair Avenue and the enclosure of the veranda. Is that part of the Heritage Conservation District, or is it just a property on St. Clair that isn't part of the district? I know part of the district, but I'm not so sure I know how far it goes.
That district is a separate district. It's the St. Clair Avenue Heritage District. It's
not
actually my district, but I'm just reporting on it because there is a representative from St. Clair on the committee.
Okay, so if that's the case, would that not require a heritage permit? If it is part of the Heritage Conservation District? Alyssa?
Through the chair. So this is the first time hearing of this. Certainly, David, if there's concerns or complaints about like this in the future, please feel free to reach out to staff to follow up appropriately. But having heard about this now, we'll look into that and see if there had been any conversation or any permits that had already been reviewed.
It's possible that they have just put this in as a temporary use to do some renovations or something, but I hadn't heard anything about it, and I don't know that anything was brought through as far as a permit of any kind. But at any rate, it was just some concerns that people brought to me, and I put them forward. That's all.
Thank you, David. And just going back to St. Giles, just looking at our watch list.
It's not on.
St. Giles is not on the list. Is that something that you're interested in adding?
St. Giles is not on. It was always on the list previously.
It was taken off the list, Madam Chair, some time ago. So it can be put back on the list.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Of course, I didn't miss a couple meetings there, and I'm not too sure.
Some time ago.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, it should be back on the list. Then I would propose that St. Giles be put on the list.
Okay.
I've always reported on it, so I
I'll second.
didn't realize it was in.
I'll second.
Okay. Janice?
Yeah, I'll second.
And is there any opposed? Seeing none?
Would this be read?
Yes, I would say so, yes.
Okay. Now, I think David was the last on our speakers list. Before we go back to Tim in regards to a property that you wanted to add. Tim, did you want to speak to that?
Yes. It's a property near and dear to my heart here. It's the counterbalance to the horrible knitting mills. I'd like to add 179 Mary Street, which we all know as the Rach House. There was a big write-up in the paper, and the owners who have been there since 1942 have sold, and new ownership is taking over. I'd like to see it put on the green, because there doesn't seem yet to be any risk, but a lot of the area here, the pricing and value has brought in a lot of investor purchases. So I certainly would like to keep an eye on it, and I can keep an eye from my front porch. So it's it's an ideal property for that one. So if
as long as it's just from your porch, Tim. All right. So we have that motion forward. Do we have a seconder to add that to the list? Robin, is there anyone opposed? Raise your hand.
So can you clarify, is that 129 Mary Street?
179.
179. Okay, thank you.
Tim, is that correct? 179? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Are there any other updates that need to be made? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive these property updates? Graham, seconded by Janice. Any opposed? Seeing none, so that item is carried. Is there, before we do our adjournment, is there any other business that we wish to discuss? So I've got Bill first and then Janice.
Just a quick question. I'd probably go to Anita. Is there any update with hiring new heritage staff and bringing them on board?
It's perfect timing, Bill, through the chair. I was going to give the committee an update today. So I do have some very, very, very exciting news, and we're very happy. We have retained or hired 2 cultural heritage planners. They will both be joining the city on May 3rd. So you will see them at the next Heritage Committee in May. So Stacey Kursikowski is one of the cultural heritage planners that will be joining us. Stacey has a Bachelor of Environmental Studies from the University of Waterloo and has worked as both a heritage planner and a planner in both the public and private sectors, and was most recently heritage planner with the town of Whitby. And Stacey is a registered professional planner. And also Chloe Richer will be joining the city. Chloe has an Honours Bachelor of Arts from the University of Toronto and a Master's of Science in Planning from the University of Toronto. She has also worked in the private sector and the public sector. Most recently, she's been heritage planners with both the cities of Waterloo and St. Catharines. And Chloe is a member of the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals. So we're very pleased that they will be joining us. And you, as I said, you will see them at your at the next meeting. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Alyssa Golden for her assistance over the last few months as we work to fill the vacancies. I'm incredibly grateful for her support, and I know this committee is as well. Alyssa will be staying on with us for a little bit while we onboard the new staff and get them up to speed. But I do want to thank her for like I said, for all of her support and for unfortunately being, having to put her other work on hold while she came to help us out. But her help and support has been invaluable. So some good news to end the meeting with today, certainly.
No, that's fantastic news. It's going to be great having the heritage planners come in. And I think we echo the same sentiments to Alyssa Golden. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for stepping in and sort of bridging that gap until we get the new staff in place. So as always, we appreciate everything that you do to help us in heritage. And I see lots of nodding heads. I think Is there any other new business? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn our meeting for this month? What? No, not everybody's raising their hand. Tim's got both hands up now. And Chuck. So if there's no one opposed, that item is carried, and we look forward to our meeting in May.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and
Thanks everybody
for your patience this morning.
Thank you.
Could I ask one
Bye,
quick
guys.
question? Who is the chair of policy and design? Alyssa?
Oh, that
Who's
is
the chair.
Will's the chair.
Okay.
And
Thank
Lynn does the meeting notes as well.
Okay.
And Bill is backup.
Okay.
Janice, I'm
Lynn.
going to be ending the meeting right now.
Okay. I'll send an email to Lynn. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Will. Thank you.